Today, Nick and I would like to announce our 2020 production schedule. You can tune in every Monday and Thursday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time for our regularly scheduled broadcasts. Our productions include EBN Presents, which covers weekly hot topics, Nick's Takes, which tackles relative dramatic events and YouTube controversies. Lessons from Coach is our show that focuses on righting the wrongs in the media today. We will also continue our stop-motion animated series called Echo Base Adventures. We are currently working on our next feature film project and greatly look forward to its release. Finally, we hope that you join us on our weekly live stream called Why We Love Star Wars, every Saturday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. This is a home for all fans who love Star Wars in any capacity. And, as always, we are, you are, Echo Base Network, and we are out.
Together we'll cross the river. Brave the forest, brave. Take a lot more than one.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming by Echo Base Network. A very special thank you to all of our subscribers. You make us who we are. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we greatly appreciate your consideration. Please make sure, whether you subscribed or not, that you hit that like button and you comment below. We would love to engage with you in that way. Thank you guys so much. Welcome back to Echo Base Network. I am the coach. Tonight we are debuting our brand new series called Why We Love Star Wars. Hope you guys enjoy this. Please give us some feedback. Thank you very much. We love Star Wars for so many different reasons. Today's episode of Why We Love Star Wars will focus on the reason of underdogs. The original trilogy is a pretty obvious example of rooting for the underdogs. Luke Skywalker comes to mind immediately, but so does the entire Rebel Alliance. The classic David versus Goliath dynamic runs throughout the Star Wars saga. Even in the prequels, we're rooting for Anakin to somehow avoid the fate we know that is coming for him. When I was a kid, or even kids today, we dream of victory in no-win scenarios. Unfortunately, many kids are faced with bad situations. We will see here how Star Wars was able to help a special young man in a time of struggle and need. Callan Cott's parents knew something was wrong with their child when the 3-year-old looked pale and suddenly stopped singing karaoke at a Christmas party in December of 2015. The boy was usually the life of the party, who loved to dance. Concerned that the pneumonia he had experienced around Thanksgiving had returned, they took Callan to the ER for a chest x-ray. The doctor ordered tests. A little while later, he sat down with Callan's parents to break the bad news. Their son had acute lymphoblastic leukemia, a blood and bone marrow cancer. We had no clue that he was sick as he was, really no warning at all, his mother Lisa Cott said. It just came out of nowhere, just days before Christmas. Callan started chemotherapy treatment immediately. Although Callan handled those rough few days well, he was also too young to understand why the nurses had to keep poking him with needles and taking blood samples. He would cry and get upset. Desperate to keep him calm, his parents tried to distract him with videos. Before the nurses walked in with more needles, Ross Cott, Callan's father, pulled up the trailer for Star Wars: The Force Awakens. When Ross showed him that preview, he composed himself, Lisa Cott said. It was the oddest thing, and I think we probably watched it 100 times after that. Although Ross loved the Star Wars films as a kid, he had never shown them to his son or even mentioned the series. He was amazed to see Callan connect so strongly with the 2-minute trailer. Over those 4 days in the hospital, his parents kept showing Callan the trailer every time needles were involved. Then, his love of Star Wars took on a life of its own. Callan fell in love with Star Wars Legos and even the Clone Wars animated series. Wanting to be sure the Cotts felt like they were in the right place, the hospital staff played along, calling the boy Star Wars Callan. At first, when he would show up for treatment, the Cotts would make sure his room was full of Star Wars decorations. Then, the nurses surprised them with their own decorations. Every time the boy had one of his 18 or so spinal taps, they brought him a Star Wars balloon. Callan's treatment was like a roller coaster. Bouts of intense chemo followed by lighter weeks. Inpatient 1 week and outpatient the next. The hardest part for the very social kid was not being able to be in school, play with his friends, or be around other family members due to his depleted immune system. But during the ups and downs, he would train with his lightsaber in the hallway, wear the masks of his favorite Star Wars characters, sing the Imperial March, and hold out his hands to use the Force in fighting his cancer. He told other patients that they could use the Force to help their cancer too. When Callan had to shave his head, Ross Cott did it too, telling him it was part of training to become a Jedi. Callan also shares his love of Star Wars with his 2-year-old brother. Ross said the Star Wars theme had been a great distraction, bringing everyone at the hospital together and boosting morale, including their own. Even though the couple has struggled with the diagnosis, they remain positive and upbeat around Callan and encourage his love of the sci-fi fantasy series. Callan started to improve without setbacks in August, and his hair grew back a couple months later. He was also able to return to school and be around other people. Now he's in remission and maintenance phase. Callan's story is helping inspire other children and families through the St. Baldrick's Foundation, a charity that funds childhood cancer research and hosts events that bring together families affected by childhood cancer. There are many things in life that are certainly more important than a science fiction saga, but this story serves as a great example of the kind of positive impact that Star Wars can still have on a child when needed. Let us not forget the underdogs, and let us never forget why we love Star Wars. Today, Nick and I would like to announce our 2020 production schedule. You can tune in every Monday and Thursday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time for our regularly scheduled broadcasts. Our productions include EBN Presents, which covers weekly hot topics, Nick's Takes, which tackles relative dramatic events and YouTube controversies. Lessons from Coach is our show that focuses on righting the wrongs in the media today. We will also continue our stop-motion animated series called Echo Base Adventures. We are currently working on our next feature film project and greatly look forward to its release. Finally, we hope that you join us on our weekly live stream called Why We Love Star Wars, every Saturday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. This is a home for all fans who love Star Wars in any capacity. And, as always, we are, you are, Echo Base Network, and we are out.
We have none other, another Titan, Mr. Gary from Nerdrotic. Gary?
He's pulled over getting a Slurpee.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me at all?
Yes,
No,
sir.
I can hear your
Sound
beard.
like grated cheese, but we got you.
I hear
Okay,
your
yeah.
beard.
It's my beard. That's right. Yeah, I'm in the Grapevine in driving down the butt crack of California right now on the way to go see Mom Roddick and go visit the Orville.
Oh, nice.
Lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations, guys.
It just continues to roll and get better. Or not get better, but, whatever. You can't beat Gary, but these people, oh my goodness. One of our favorite YouTubers on planet Earth right here, John Talks, and then the next one, another one of our favorite YouTubers on planet Earth, the amazing Lucas. Holy moly, look who is the Echo Base Network. How are you guys doing?
Yum.
Can you guys hear?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Sweet.
Yeah. How you guys doing tonight?
That's all I care about. Forget about John Talks. I actually watched John Talks. That's the funny part. I donated on your super chat, I believe.
You did. I still got to get you back on that one.
So you can see me.
There it is.
There
you
go.
go.
Now it's a party.
Wow.
Yeah. And then you can hear me. Is that all good?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Good. I'm just checking in. There we go. That's better. Now we're
Nice.
now we're not.
The reason I got this pop filter right here, because you have one.
Oh, well, yes. Well, thank you. No, I appreciate that. But no, seriously, Lucas, I have to say that I've really appreciated your take on a wide variety of topics. I don't always agree with you, but I really enjoy your videos.
I appreciate that.
Well, you just mentioned bring in or bring characters together, and look who we just had pop in. Not just the narrator, much bigger than that. Everybody's overlord. All hail Doomcock.
Hello, and everybody. I'm glad to be here, and congratulations, you guys, on your fantastic documentary. And thank you for letting me be a part of it. And hail to the amazing Lucas, and hail to the great Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well,
what
we're all
a hell of a guy.
I bow to you, sir.
I bow to you back. I'm not on camera for security reasons, but I bow to you. You are outstanding, and Free Enterprise is a hell of a movie.
We hold you two in such high regard. We want to call you Mr. Burnett and Mr. Cock, okay?
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you, Coach, and Nicholas Glenn. You guys are awesome. You guys are truly genuine, wonderful people, and I wish you every success on your channel.
Hey, it's a pleasure. Really, I mean, I know I'm viewed in a certain light in terms of the channel size and whatever, but at the end of the day, you guys are my equals, you're my peers. You guys probably know more about Star Wars than I do when it comes down to the lore. I'm
sure we do.
I'm just louder. Yeah, I'm just louder and more bombastic, so it gets me more views. But I'm pretty sure you guys are far more knowledgeable and respectable from that perspective, and I appreciate both of you and respect both of you. And we're equals as far as I'm concerned.
Any last words?
Thank you to everybody that came out tonight. Thank you to everybody that supported us. Thank you to all the people, all the other YouTube creators that came on our live stream and took the time out to be a part of this. It really means a lot to us, and we really just can't say thank you enough. And there was a lot of other people that we wanted on here that were busy, and hopefully we'll be able to have them on in the future and have more chats and videos and streams with them. But just me and Coach are just floored by all the support we've gotten from the community and everybody out there, and we're so grateful and thankful.
Welcome back to Echo Base Network, and you are Echo Base Network, so we appreciate your being here, guys. We got so many people in the chat right now that we want to give a quick hello to. We've got the Ghost Rider Reviews, Mark the Infinitely Tired. I believe he stepped out to go do his board games, but he'll be back later. Mark, we hope you win. Loki's Mornings of Mischief is here. Thank you, Loki, for being here. We love you, brother. Matt G, hello. Thank you so much. Matt G has been super chatting like 3 or 4 times in a row now. Matt G, this is for you. All right, so let's see who all else we have here. Lori Roberts, thank you very much for coming by, Lori. We appreciate your being here. Captain Trek is here. Batman, big fan. Batman, I know it's early in the morning where you're at. We are glad you're here, man. Let's see. 24/7 Fusion Media. Our brother is here. Glad you are here. Did a great video the other day, 24/7. I really enjoyed that. Let's see. We have got, I don't want to skip anybody, Sheila Allen, who did an amazing video just a few days ago about the YouTube algorithm concerning live streaming. And Sheila, we took that information and we are applying it here at our Echo Base Network. Cotton Candy Hair Jeremy, always in the house. Jeremy, there was no date this time, and I made sure I got that done. Love you, man. Turd Burglar is here. He says, love this channel, and we love you, man. Thank you very much. Let's see. Going down. The Mexican Iron Man is here. Hola! ¿Cómo estás? Bien, y tú? Glad you were here, Mexican Iron Man. Let's see. Nicholas Glenn, my partner in crime. We just want to hit everybody and make sure that we don't miss anybody. Fenrir Fire is here. Mad Max, the one and only Mad Max, the Mandalorian, has popped in. Our brother Rob Pearson from across the lake. Let's see. Who else do we have? What's his face, Mick Whatever, our winner from last week, and a very solid member here at our Echo Base Network. We appreciate you, brother. Your winnings is going out on Monday. And let us know. It's not going to take very long to get to the Sunshine State. Let's see. We're having pizza. Let's go. Coda44 is in the house. Ensign Ricky is in the house. Wheel Deal, thank you very much for stopping by. That guy says is here. Made it just in time. Yes, you did. Jeff Franklin is here. Thank you, Jeff, for stopping by. We greatly appreciate that. One Hound of the Valinor. Thank you so much. He says hello. All soon time for bed. Just dropping by to give a like. Thank you very much. Pyro Fusion Dancer saying hello. Thank you very much for being here as well. So now that we got all that cleared up, guys, we're going to go ahead and start tonight's broadcast. It is the bonus featurette to mine and Nick and all of ours, sequel trilogy documentary. It has been a huge success for us. We have made it to over 100,000 views in less than a month, and we are very, very thrilled about that. So we're going to go ahead and play this bonus featurette that Nick and myself put together, and we hope that you like it. And kind of back to the old days of Echo Base Network, we created a very special intro for this sequel trilogy documentary bonus featurette. So we hope that you like it, and hope that you guys will stick around after the show for the live stream. So here we go. Let's see this and see what you think. Welcome back to Echo Base Network. Tonight we are very excited to show you our bonus featurette covering the Star Wars sequel trilogy documentary that Nick and I did earlier this year.
Yep, so what you guys are going to see is basically everybody's takes that they recorded for us and sent to us in their entirety. Now, of course, we only got to use, 5, 10, up to maybe 30 seconds of this. And a lot of these are, 3 minutes all the way up to like 18 minutes or something. I can't remember the times on all of them, but we wanted to just give shout out to the people that took the time to record for us, and by showing their takes in their entirety in this bonus featurette, so you guys can kind of get their thoughts from start to finish.
And that's what a lot of people aren't understanding or getting until just now. Some of the criticism directed towards us dealing with the sequel trilogy documentary, because we do read the comments and we are open to the criticism as well. If we could handle the good things, we could certainly deal with the bad. But some people, said that we were clip hunting, and that they've already seen all these things on YouTube. And that's not true, because we had many, many people send us these interviews that they did just for us. They answered questions that we sent them. They recorded, they sent it to us. The only place you're ever going to see these interviews from these awesome people is right here at Echo Base Network.
Yeah, and some of the material in it didn't even come off YouTube. So
yep. That's exactly right. Well, guys, we hope that you enjoyed the bonus featurette. Please let us know what you think about it in the comments section. Please like and share the video as well, and we will see you guys next time.
See y'all later.
Hello, Andy Signor here. Thank you for thinking of me. I'll give you a couple quick thoughts about Star Wars, the sequel trilogy. I think the main reason the sequel trilogy doesn't work as effectively as I think it could have is because it's clear when you watch it that there's no grand plan. Force Awakens started off okay. It had a direction. JJ made some cool choices. It wasn't my favorite, but I saw that there was potential for directions it could go. Last Jedi completely wiped those expectations out and just decided to say, you know what? It doesn't matter who Rey is. It doesn't matter who Snoke is. That's what Star Wars has always done, and you're expecting those things. Well, too bad. It's not like that anymore. Anybody could be these people. Anybody can be a Jedi. Anybody can have these powers. And I think that made a lot of people angry. And it made me angry. I wasn't a fan of a lot of the choices beyond just sort of those ballsy choices, which were ballsy. I give Ryan Johnson props for challenging sort of Star Wars and giving something different instead of retreading A New Hope, which Force Awakens did, or retreading Return of the Jedi or Revenge of the Sith, which is what Rise of Skywalker did. Ryan Johnson tried to do something new, and that's why it's so divisive. I didn't like a lot of the choices, but now seeing the whole saga, I actually respect those choices more than just retreading the things we'd seen already. I think JJ is a really good starter, but as he's sort of admitted himself, he doesn't know how to end things. And I think he tried his damnedest here. He did the best he could do given the material he had and the impossible task of pleasing all fans. There are a lot of fans that do like this movie. The audience rating on this movie is high. The movie is making a lot of money. Sure, it's not making as much as the other ones, but it's still going to be a success. So to deem this a failure, I think, is incorrect. I think it's a failure for certain fans who didn't like where it ended. And the reason I don't like where it ended is because it feels like 3 disjointed movies where Ryan Johnson made those risky changes and decided to say, you know what, forget the expectations. I'm going to reverse them all. And things you thought mattered don't. Whether you like that or not, it was different. And then what happened with Rise of Skywalker was, I do believe Kathleen Kennedy, Bob Iger, whoever at Disney, they got cold feet. They gave Ryan Johnson the keys. They said, no, all right, we believe in you. Take us in this cool new direction. The fans are going to go, what? And they thought it was like Jar Jar Binks. Remember, Jar Jar Binks, played by Ahmed Best. People on set were saying he was going to be the next big thing. They thought he was going to be the best character Star Wars ever made. They were laughing it up, laughing. Ahmed Best was great. And then the movie came out, and man, poor Ahmed Best. We were just so crappy to him. And that's what we're doing now to everybody we don't like. But that dude was like suicidal. It's an awful story if you go read his true story. And the reality was, no one knew that was going to be as poor as it was. Watching it, it makes me cringe. But now watching it as a parent with my children, they laugh. They like him. He's a kid character. He's a silly, stupid, fart character. I don't like it, but kids like it. And we shouldn't have been as harsh on him as we were. I feel that same way about Ryan Johnson now. Look, I was upset with the choices he made, but he made risks. He took some risks and put his nuts on the line and tried to do something new with the franchise. And then when the fans were like, no, this is wrong. That's not Luke. You can't do this. Why is Finn doing that? That was a very fair argument. A lot of these arguments are fair, but regardless, the fans got so vocal and divisive about it. I do think Star Wars retconned it. They were like, well, damn, that didn't work. Ryan Johnson, thanks, but no thanks. Hey, JJ, whatever. We'll truck a whole bunch of money for you. Can you go back and do some of the ideas you were teasing us with earlier? Can you just fix it? And the movie Rise of Skywalker plays like 2 movies on fast forward. It feels like, here are the elements of my sequel that I didn't get to make. Oh, and here's the finale that I'm going to try and rush to because I have to. The whole trilogy now just feels rushed and less magical because it's clear they didn't commit. It's clear they didn't commit to one vision. And that's the biggest problem, I think, that Disney made with Star Wars. When you have a movie like Star Wars and you need to make 3 final movies to sum up the other, 8 movies, 6 movies, you need to take years on a whiteboard with creative visionaries, with a think tank to really beat out, okay, well, where can this go? Where do we go? What should we do in movie 1, movie 2, and movie 3? You got to write it like it's a TV show with a season. All right, well, what's season 2 and 3 going to be? What's our character Bible? What's the history and the timeline of what do we save for this? You needed to do that for a movie this big that you're going to make the last 3 movies for. You don't just rush them out and bring in new directors and then fire Colin Trevorrow and then say, JJ, come fix this. You have 2 years. You give JJ another year. And Disney should have done that. Disney is to blame for that. Disney rushed this out for money. Disney had, think about it. In 2019, Disney released Endgame, Captain Marvel, Aladdin, Lion King, Toy Story 4, Frozen 2. I mean, those are huge movies. They released all of those movies in one year, and then we're like, oh, wait, we also have the final Star Wars. And then in 2020, they have Black Widow, Eternals, Mulan, Artemis Fowl. What on earth were they thinking, not saving Star Wars for 2020 and allowing that to be the big film of 2020 to make them all the money and give JJ more time to figure it out, to have him actually work on it and say, you know what, make sure this works better. If he had been given more time, I do think they could have figured out ways to tighten things up or make adjustments, and they didn't get to. They had to sort of rush and release what they made, and that's Disney's fault. Now, look, there are probably, a year might not have saved it, but a year would have at least shown that they tried. And instead, they made him rush without any time to do post. With JJ has admitted he had the least amount of time ever to do post in a film with Rise of Skywalker, and that is just so stupid. When you had all those blockbusters in 2019 that made you billions of dollars, why not give him another year to throw another huge $1 billion for 2020? It just reeks of stockholders, people in charge of Disney, Bob Iger, etc., had a quota to meet, and they were like, we don't care about these characters. We need to meet the deadline and make the people that we need to make money for a lot more money, because that's our job. And I think that was a mistake. Buying another year or two to make sure they got the final movie right was a thing they should have done. Chris Terrio has now even said they were. What's interesting is Chris Terrio, the screenwriter, has now admitted that Rise of Skywalker, they talked about the idea of cutting it up into 2 movies. And it's interesting. Let me try that thing again without the flub. Chris Terrio, the screenwriter of Rise of Skywalker, has actually now recently said that they really contemplated the idea of cutting the Rise of Skywalker up into 2 parts. And it's an interesting question. Would that have helped the film? I think it would have, because it would have stretched out a lot of the plot points. It would have allowed them to have more time to breathe, for us to really make it more effective. At the same time, I understand them not wanting to disrespect Lucas's, legacy of 9 movies, 3 trilogies. But the number's kind of arbitrary, if you ask me. I know a lot of Star Wars fans will disagree with me, but I would much rather have an effective, stronger story than just meet a number. And I think, sadly, this didn't work because they had to rush through so much movie that JJ thought he needed to do to course correct Last Jedi, that the movie suffered. I do think it's important to reiterate. I know a lot of people are going to hate on this movie. They're going to hate on all these movies. But there's a lot of fans who like them, and we have to respect those fans. We can't call them dumb. We can't just write them off. I didn't like it. I know a lot of people watching this probably didn't like it, but the fans are allowed to like it. I think we all wanted to like it. There's a super fan I've become friends with, Eric Butts. He watches these trailers and cries to them. I talked to him about this movie, and he was just bawling through the whole movie. And I wish I could have watched The Rise of Skywalker as Eric Butts. I would have want nothing more than to go in that theater and just forget about all the stuff online and the leaks and whatever else BS there's out there, and to just be a fan of Star Wars and to have my popcorn and just go into a galaxy far, far away and fall in love with it and just be a little kid again. And I went in with that intent, and I couldn't, because it felt like a studio rushing through beats to please every fan they could try and check off the list and try and justify a lot of the things they did. And you could just see it on screen. Moments that should have been slower or had payoffs, they just didn't go anywhere. Finn is whispering his secret and never says it. The end of the movie is, I'm Rey Skywalker. Like, she might as well have just called herself Rey Star Wars. It just all felt so broad and obvious and disrespectful to some of the legacy that we've come and seen through other Star Wars movies. I've now gone back and watched the prequels. I've watched the original ones, and a lot of it just is starting to not make sense. I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I enjoy Star Wars, and I know a little bit. I know pretty good. Look, I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I've seen all the movies. I've kept track. I've watched them all numerous times, and I know some of the lore. But I'm not the biggest diehard Star Wars fan where I know all the extended universe and stuff. But I shouldn't have to know all that stuff to enjoy these movies. I should be able to watch these movies and understand what the rule of 2 is. And I still don't understand it now with all the movies. I'm confused. The balance of the Force and the amount of Jedis to Siths, and when you watch the prequels and you watch the new one and you realize, well, are the Jedis overbalanced now, or does the Emperor bring back balance? What is the balance? I honestly, I'm sure some of you can school me, but it shouldn't be that hard to understand. I shouldn't have to go read 10 books to understand what that means. The main themes of the movie should be clear. When you watch all 9 of them, you should feel like, oh, I know how Star Wars works. And I don't think it's clear enough now. And the idea of the Force alone, they use it for so many things now that I don't really understand how it works. Is Broom Boy at the end of Last Jedi, is that still legit? So many questions that don't feel like cool, open-ended questions. They feel more like, well, wait, do I understand this still? And to me, that's a failure of a Star Wars film. I should not have to go ask questions of like, well, wait, does this still work? And wait, can you explain that again? That's not like, oh, cool, let's go back and look at the Easter eggs. That's just a failure in writing. And so I do think the films, for me, the films do have some problems. And I think proves how hard this task was of trying to please the fans and deliver a solid landing on wrapping up 3 trilogies. So look, I don't hate JJ, I don't hate Ryan, I don't hate Kathleen. I'm frustrated, but I do think this sequel trilogy was a letdown. Again, I really think the biggest problem with the sequel trilogy is the lack of plan. And it's interesting now because Chris Terrio, the screenwriter, JJ, they've been coming out and saying quotes to press for awards. I'm sure a lot of their people that are on this documentary are going to talk about the lack of a plan. But what's really interesting is hearing it from the filmmakers themselves. They're all trying to justify it now and say, well, no, there was a plan. And if you go and read their quotes, it really is telling because it does sound like they're saving face and trying to sort of, we wrote that scene in episode 7 because that's what justified episode 9. But I don't believe for a second that was intentional. JJ was never going to come back. These are hard movies to make. That's why he didn't come back for 2. He should have. He should have just led them all 3 because if he had done Rise of Skywalker in 2 movies over the course of episode 8 and episode 9, I do think it would have been a better trilogy. But he didn't. But what's interesting is now the screenwriter is sort of justifying his plan by saying that there was a plan. If you look at this article on Awards Daily, they were asked, when you started working on the final script, were you responding to a predefined structure or were you creating something unique between the 2 of you? Both, actually. Kathy Kennedy and Michelle Redjwan had a clear plan for where they wanted things to end. They had clear plans about certain narrative marks they wanted us to hit. They also gave us a lot of freedom within that. We knew that Rey and Ren were utterly key to this trilogy, but we also felt that there was no way that we were going to not find a path of redemption for Kylo Ren, the son of Han and Leia. Later, they were also asked again about Emperor Palpatine. And they said, I can't speak to Kathy's overall intent. That was certainly discussed. That was certainly discussed and was discussed before I ever came on. Kathy had this overall vision that we had to be telling the same story for 9 episodes. Although from the sleight of hand of episode 7 and episode 8, you wouldn't necessarily know immediately that we were telling the same story. She thought it would be a very strong end for the 9th movie. This fits well with JJ because he loves magic tricks. Justifying episode 8 as sleight of hand, as if Rey's parents being nobodies and Snoke being nobody, that's not sleight of hand distraction tricking us. That's just being a jerk. It's planning an idea saying, no, it wasn't anything. And then episode 9 coming around to say, just kidding, they are something. I don't think that shows a plan. I think that shows retconning. That shows the fans reacted badly to episode 8. So let's not actually do what Rian Johnson was doing. Because Rian Johnson has not admitted that was what he was doing. Rian Johnson's very adamant in being clear that he wanted to be clear that they didn't have to be this big bad. There didn't have to be lineage. Anybody could be a Jedi. Anybody can rise up and be a hero. And to be honest, I like that idea. It's actually different. It's something we haven't seen in Star Wars. For JJ to just repeat A New Hope in Force Awakens and now repeat Jedi and Revenge of the Sith for Rise of Skywalker, it's kind of lazy. I would much rather have an original story try and challenge me than just see movies I've already seen before. So while I didn't like Last Jedi when I saw it, after seeing Rise of Skywalker, I really have challenged myself to really go back and realize that I was harsh on Last Jedi. There are still parts of that movie that don't work. Don't get me wrong. I don't like a lot of it, but at the same time, I respect some of the choices he made because they're different. And I'm interested to see where Rian Johnson would have taken them versus just retread a lot of the steps from Revenge of the Sith and Return of the Jedi, which JJ just tends to do, is repeat old Star Wars cliches. I have not lost faith in Disney's Star Wars, and the reason being is The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian is fantastic, and it just shows you can create new original stories by using some of the species and worlds that we know, but moving forward in a new direction. And I love that idea. I love the idea of Baby Yoda. It's not Yoda, but it's a character we know, and it's an ancillary character we can connect to, but it's still its own new character. The Mandalorian isn't Boba Fett, and I love that. It's okay, it's like Boba Fett, but it's someone you haven't met yet. That to me is world building that I'm very excited for with Disney Star Wars, and I think its success will allow us to see a lot more. Kenobi, directed by Deborah Chow. Deborah Chow is, I think, one of the best live-action Star Wars directors we have right now. I'm so excited to see what she does next. Taika Waititi, also doing amazing things. Jon Favreau, I say give him all of the reins, let him take over. There are people there who seem to have vision, who I'm very excited to see where they take this new Star Wars universe.
So one of the things that really powered up the sequel trilogy documentary was the addition, a huge addition of Doomcock as narrator. We wanted his voice. Before that happened, the script was done. We were finished with it. We were going, who are we going to get to do this for us? I had people in mind. And then one day Nick just says out of the blue, what about Doomcock? And I thought, I can see that. Little did we know he would do as incredible as he did. Doomcock could be a full-time narrator. Like, it was so unbelievably good. But before that, before we got to that point, Nick and I, not really having a direction with narration, we needed to do a dry run. We wanted to see what the pacing was like, what the media looked like when the words were said. So, the first person to ever narrate this was yours truly. So this is actually comedy, guys. I hope that you laugh, because the difference in what Doomcock did and what the coach did is like, it's day and night, honestly. So check this out and get a good laugh. Since its inception in 1977, Star Wars has had an extreme impact and influence on entertainment, culture, and our world. George Lucas created a true masterpiece for all ages. Fans of Star Wars for decades were content to look at the past that laid behind them while hoping for more Star Wars in their future. After Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, hit theaters in 2005, fans would keep Star Wars alive through games, animated series, novels, comic books, and various forms of collecting. Soon, for all fans, there would be a new hope. I know. Bloody awful. Thank goodness for Doomcock. Thank you, our overlord.
Look, I have to say that overall, I think that the Star Wars has been a tremendous disappointment, because unfortunately it was the first time where corporate interests were more important than an individual man's creative vision. And even though people like Irvin Kershner did direct, or Richard Marquand did direct, Star Wars movies after George Lucas directed Star Wars itself, Lucasfilm was still presided over, and especially the Star Wars franchise was presided over by George Lucas. He was able to be influential for the animated shows. He worked with Dave Filoni. He explained his concepts. And the very reason that you created the Star Wars trilogy in the first, or all the Star Wars movies, George Lucas wanted to make Star Wars like any filmmaker who wants to make a movie, not necessarily to make money, although that's always a great byproduct, but he had a story to tell. He wanted to make a serial that was a throwback to the movies like the Flash Gordon serials of his youth. That's what he wanted. He did not know he was going to succeed as much as he did. Now, it's a fact of life that when a corporation like Disney buys your product, Disney was buying Star Wars with the express purpose of selling it to the most amount of people on multiple platforms. Theme parks, apparel, toys, and then, of course, movies and TV shows. But when you do that, that means that a corporation's interests always come before the truth of the story that you want to be telling. And I think that's no way to make films. And especially when you buy Star Wars, what you want to do is, its very success was predicated on the vision of one man. And by not bringing in other creators and then telling what those creators, making arbitrary decisions like, okay, we can't rely on the very characters that made this brand successful because they're old. What we have to do is appeal to a whole new generation of people And because, you know, they're thinking of Star Wars as this overall universe and this brand that we can sell, without understanding that at the core of Star Wars is Luke Skywalker. Sure, there's Darth Vader and Han Solo, but ultimately Star Wars is the story of Luke Skywalker and the Skywalker clan. And you can't even go back and even the prequel trilogy is simply informing the original trilogy's story of Luke making the journey to confront his father. So what the sequel trilogy should have been, if you're going to make it, even though you concluded the story, is that once Luke had confronted Vader, the whole prequel, or once Luke had confronted Vader, then any sequel trilogy that should have been made should have been, what kind of man does Luke Skywalker become as the weight of the galaxy is now put on his shoulders? That's what it should have been about. We should have watched the journey of now that you've told Luke's father's story and you've told Luke's story and they confronted one another. What does that confrontation do to Luke, and what is the story that what is Luke's next, how is then Luke going to take the mantle of the responsibility of becoming a new Jedi, rebuilding the Jedi Order, rebuilding the New Republic? What has he learned? What has he learned? And the three movies should have been about that journey and taken Luke to the end of his life. We could have seen a lot of time pass. It's more of a Godfather-esque journey, and why that wasn't understood, I don't know. But a corporation doesn't care about what the story was. The corporation isn't thinking about Luke Skywalker. The corporation's thinking about Star Wars. And that's the inherent problem of when a corporation buys something. A corporation doesn't know how to tell a story. Only an individual knows how to tell a story. Only a human being knows how to tell a story. And while they think they can maybe hire a bunch of people to create stories, let's hire a story group. Okay. You know, none of the great stories of Western literature were written by a committee. Unless, well, maybe the Bible. But I'm talking about single individual stories. But that's my take.
The Disney trilogy to me has been interesting, to say the least. I enjoyed The Force Awakens and Rogue One enough that I genuinely was looking forward to Episode 8. I'd just been brought on to Midnight's Edge about a year and a half before The Last Jedi dropped. Like most people, I was taken off guard with the film. I'd never seen such a reaction to a movie like this. The entire thing got me to the point where I felt like I had a final breakup with Star Wars that was solidified with Solo's release a few months later. Star Wars was truly dead to me. Yeah, we had some rough patches like the prequels and stuff, but like most people, I felt Disney and Kathleen Kennedy would do right by the franchise. Finally, like Leia slowly waking up in dead space after being blown out of her transport in The Last Jedi, I woke up to the fact that something I once loved was changed forever. Despite this happening, what I found in its wake was a community of friends and colleagues that stand together despite attacks from directors and actors about our opinions over a movie and characters. It really has been an insane ride. It's finally come to a close with the rise of Skywalker, and maybe we can look forward to things like The Mandalorian and a new regime taking over, and things being a little bit different, and hopefully bring us all back together as a community that way too. In the end, we all discuss about how we would change things in these movies, especially The Last Jedi. But I wouldn't change a thing, because of the great friendships and relationships that have come out of it.
Hey guys, Michael J. Crawford, the Anti-Trekker here. The sequel trilogy can be summed up in one word: unnecessary. Return of the Jedi was a fine ending to the Skywalker saga with the basic "and they lived happily ever after" ending. But in the modern era of filmmaking, we can never leave well enough alone. The Force Awakens was a nice enough try to relaunch the saga, and despite many people complaining that it was a rehash of Episode 4, it brought in enough to the table to where, hey, this could go somewhere. Really, the biggest problem was that Rey was too overpowered and skilled to be an interesting character, but with a good explanation in the sequels, it could have been an awesome relaunch of the franchise. Then we got The Last Jedi. And Rian Johnson purposely try to derail the entire Star Wars franchise, and unfortunately he was successful. And then we move on to The Rise of Skywalker, which really should have been titled The Rise of Damage Control. J.J. Abrams, to his credit, managed to put together an ending to the saga, but it was doomed from the get-go. Since the fandom was so split over The Last Jedi, if J.J. had catered to The Last Jedi fans, those that hated The Last Jedi would have been storming the gates of Disney with torches and pitchforks. And had he tossed The Last Jedi under the bus, the fans of The Last Jedi would have done the same. J.J. tried to do a compromise, and based on the survey numbers, pleased the majority of the average audience. But the hardcore fans, those we call the fandom menace, as well as the hardcore supporters of The Last Jedi, those we tend to call the SJWs, both hated it. The fandom menace and the SJWs agreeing on this. I never thought I would see the day that that would happen. In the end, The Last Jedi was so divisive that there was no way to make this into a good trilogy. And this, more than anything else, should be a lesson to everyone in Hollywood as to why you should never make a trilogy of films without some kind of plan as to how you want your story to go before you start making the trilogy. Say what you want about George Lucas. If you love or hate the prequels, at least he had a story of his two trilogies before they were completed. He knew where he was going when he made The Phantom Menace. What can I say? Basically, the prequels look like frickin' Citizen Kane compared to the sequel trilogy. As individual movies, you can argue that they're good or bad, but as a trilogy of films, it is a disjointed mess. Take care.
The sequel trilogy it's a hard thing for me to talk about. It's not for me anymore. After The Last Jedi, there's nothing left for me to talk about. I don't care about these characters. And it's a trilogy for a different generation. It does not feel like a sequel trilogy to me. And I just don't care about it. That's also why I've been neglecting to talk about it. The Rise of Skywalker, I'm glad people like it. It just seems like we're back where we started. I wanted the world to open, not to shrink. The world to open for new adventures, not a rehash of the old, with characters that are not as cool as the old ones. And all I see when I try to watch the sequel trilogy is I'm reminded of what's not there, the characters that are not there, and what we could have had. I remember growing up thinking, what can Luke Skywalker do next? And this isn't what I imagined, not even close. And it's a missed opportunity that we'll never recover from. So I can't forgive Disney and Lucasfilm, but I am going to try to move on and just enjoy other Star Wars content. And remember Luke, the new hope. Luke meant hope in the original trilogy, not hiding on an island and giving in to fear. He should be a Jedi Master, top of his game, and cowers in fear just the thought of hate. That's not a Jedi Master. And that's why I still haven't finished this trilogy, and I'm not looking forward to seeing the end of it. I just don't care anymore. Mandalorian has refreshed my love of Star Wars, and I'm happy for that.
Okay, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down just in case you didn't see it. Mexican Iron Man posted a link to join the new stream over at StreamYard. So please make sure that you head over and join that stream. And we will see you guys over there. And yeah, we are out.